What's good, y'all? Back. Most terrifying cult to ever exist by Good Enough. I actually really love this channel. I watched all the other videos. Absolutely fire, bro. Bussin'. But we'll go watch these today. Hopefully y'all doing okay. And we'll go get started.
Let's start with the strange and slowly work our way towards the most terrifying ones on the list. Number 7, the Russian Doomsday Cult. The Russian Doomsday Cult would make international news in November of 2007, when around 35 of their members barricaded themselves inside of a small cave in Russia's Penza region. And when authorities went down to investigate and remove them from the cave, the cult members would respond by threatening to blow themselves up. With some of the members even bringing their children inside of the cave, police were left with no option but to wait them out. But before I tell you how this all ends, let's first cover the origins of this mysterious group and how they got to that point.
Nah, man, just because y'all crazy, y'all can't be adding your freaking children over there about to getting your kids killed. If you wanna kill yourself, go ahead. And YouTube, that is not freaking harassment, man. That's not bullying harassment. Don't give me no freaking strike. If you want to control alt delete yourself, go ahead. Don't add the toddlers in there. Don't add the motherfucking, you know what I'm saying, the youngins, the jits. Don't add them in there.
The cave dwellers were originally part of the Russian Orthodox Church, but they would end up leaving the church when a self-proclaimed prophet named Pyotr Kuznetsov convinced them that the world would soon be coming to an end. Pyotr would refer to his new followers as the Chosen Ones, which made them feel special.
Not looking like that. Y'all can't be, y'all don't think y'all chosen for is the Special Olympics, man. Talking about some chosen ones. Yeah, all right. Yeah, bro. Doing a 100-yard dash with the other, you know what I mean?
Pyotr would ban his followers from eating processed foods, watching TV, or handling money.
First two low-key, W. Low-key.
They would also reject barcodes, national identification numbers, and passports, since Pyotr convinced them that they all contained the mark of the beast. But after some time had gone by, his followers began to ask questions.
Hey, Pyotr.
Yeah?
You know how you've been talking a whole lot about the end of the world and all?
Yeah?
Well, me and the others been wondering, well, when exactly is it?
Well,
You don't even know.
What you mean?
May 2008. Yeah, May 2008. Which was 6 months away. The group was then instructed to enter a small cave and patiently wait for the world to come to an end. The cult members entered the cave in November 2007, but conveniently enough, Pyotr would not be joining them. Instead, he had convinced his followers that since the world was ending, they would no longer need their personal possessions. With authorities speculating that he was busy selling off his followers' belongings, he was quickly arrested and taken into custody. If only he could have predicted his arrest. Okay, I'll see myself out. The cult members would oddly enough still remain inside of the cave, and 5 months would go by with no one entering or leaving. But on March 28th, 2008, 7 women finally had enough, exiting the cave and immediately seeking medical attention. A few days later, a portion of the cave would end up collapsing, leading more members to rage quit and exiting the cave. With some members still refusing to leave, the police would have the brilliant idea of bringing Pyotr down to the cave, where he would instruct his followers to exit, but they refused. And on May 16th, 2008, the last 9 members of the cult would finally emerge from the cave due to the toxic fumes produced by 2 of the members who had died over the winter. With authorities expecting their exit, they greeted them with a cow, since they refused to drink milk that contained a barcode. As for Pyotr, authorities would discover that the man actually slept inside of a coffin, further solidifying the fact that he was completely insane, where he would end up inside of a psych ward. Number 6.
That is insane, bro. Even the leader, like, all right, y'all can leave. Like, nah, I'm gonna stay. Like, it's either one or two things. You got to be a complete idiot to be inside of a freaking cave, barricaded for months. Or 2, he got to have a crazy, his charisma got to be crazy. Okay, his persuasion skill, his persuasion skill tree, it has to be maxed on some freaking Skyrim type time. Level 100 freaking persuasion and charisma. Cause ain't no freaking way I'm about to get freaking brainwashed into thinking that I gotta do sit in the cave for 6-7 months and be saved. Nah.
Shinrikyo. Probably one of the most infamous and dangerous cults to have ever existed. In 1987, this cult would make themselves known to the world when a few of their members orchestrated the deadliest domestic attack in Japan's history, leaving 13 innocent people dead and over 6,000 injured. But before we get to that heinous attack, let's first cover how this cult began. The year is 1987. A man named Chizuo Matsumoto began to distribute pamphlets claiming to have reached a new level of enlightenment through meditation. The pamphlet advertised a yoga class where you can come and learn about his amazing discovery. But during these classes, he would spend his time preaching about the end of the world. And that should have probably been your cue to updog your way out the class.
Yeah.
What's that?
Nothing much, man. What's up with you?
Nah.
I don't get it.
If he would have stayed.
And over the course
You
of a
deserve
few
to get
years, he managed to
manipulated.
garner dozens of loyal followers, naming the group Shinrikyo, which roughly translates to the Supreme Truth. And in 1992, Chizuo Matsumoto would gain even more followers when he released a book titled Declaring Myself the Christ, which had a picture of him on the cross as the cover.
Crazy. That's freaking crazy. That's wild. Declare myself the Christ, disclosing the true meaning of Jesus Christ's gospel. No, that's blasphemous. No HD.
At its peak, the cult would grow to over tens of thousands of members that spanned over multiple countries. His followers would even state that if people would just take a moment to listen to their enlightened leader, they too would see the light. But without warning, on the morning of March 20th, 1995, tragedy would strike when a total of 5 chemical weapon attacks took place in the Tokyo subway system, killing 13 innocent people and injuring around 6,000 others. The attacks would quickly backfire as the authorities began to arrest everyone involved, including the cult leader. These attacks were meant to initiate the apocalypse, and once the world had collapsed, the cult would rise to rule the world in the way that they saw fit. But instead, the attacks led the leader and 6 high-ranking members directly to death row, where they were held until their execution date, which came on July 6, 2018. Number 5.
Nah, that's crazy, and able to rack up like tens of thousands is freaking wild. I remember looking. I don't think I read about it or seen something about that. It was at a little train station or something like that. It was freaking bioweapons, basically, freaking getting people sick and trying to get them killed. I didn't know it was this though. I didn't know. Well, I forgot.
Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate was an American religion movement that began to garner a following in Southern California during the mid-1970s. The group has been characterized as a UFO religion cult, whatever the hell that means. The followers of this cult believed that they could transform themselves into immortal extraterrestrial beings once they rejected their human nature, something that they would refer to as reaching the next level, which I guess they ultimately did, but more on that later. The group was started by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Nettles, who after confiding in each other would come to the conclusion that they were the 2 witnesses described in the book of Revelation, which would make them prophets. Fully convinced, they would attend church groups where they would present themselves as the 2. And I can only assume how funny that must have been. He broke the bread and gave it to them, saying, this is my body. Excuse me? Yeah? Sorry to interrupt, but I just want to let you guys know that, well, we are the 2.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Like, the 2. I'm not following. You know, like, what 2? The 2 from the book of Revelations? Right.
Nutballs.
Get a load of this guy.
That's funny.
But somehow the 2 would begin to garner a following when they began to hand out flyers advertising their seminars, like this one. claiming to be from the next level, leaving their higher being self to come down to earth to help others. And somehow they managed to recruit around 39 loyal followers. Now, one of the strangest and most terrifying thing about this cult was the fact that all male members were required to be castrated.
What?
Which we can all agree is a wild thing to just throw out. The group would first try to do the procedure in-house, almost killing one of their members. So all future castrations...
Man, ain't no sweet talking you can do for me to cut my balls and freaking cock off, bro. You out of your freaking cotton picking, vine swinging mind, bro. Hell nah, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. These gotta be freaking idiots, bro. I can't even blame it on the cult leader having a way with words. You're just a freaking idiot. Ain't no type of convincing about extraterrestrials, God, or anything to where I'm gonna be cutting my schling off. My freaking, my not douche nozzle. My motherfucking, you know what I'm saying, my shaboing boing.
would take place at the local hospital. The group would be left in complete shock when one of the two founding leaders, Bonnie Nettles, would suddenly pass away. This would cause the entire cult's belief system to collapse, since they originally preached that all members were to ascend alive inside of a UFO. So Applewhite made a few adjustments to their beliefs and would come to the conclusion that only the person's soul would be taken by the spaceship. 12 years would go by, and the members of Heaven's Gate grew tired of waiting. And on March 26, 1997, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department would discover a horrifying scene. Inside of a rented mansion laid 39 lifeless bodies, including the cult's leader, bringing Applewhite's revelations to fruition. And in his own words, the members of Heaven's Gate had finally graduated. Number 4, the Branch Davidians.
They killed
this is
themselves
one of
for
the
nothing.
most insane cults to have ever existed. The Branch Davidians were an apocalyptic Christian cult founded in Texas in 1935 by a man named Victor Houteff. And in 1957, the cult would purchase 941 acres of land near Elk, Texas, where they would build a large community that would serve as their home and headquarters. But things wouldn't really start to heat up until 1987, when a man named David Koresh would take over as the cult's leader. And he was, of course, you guessed it, a self-proclaimed prophet. According to David, he was appointed by God as a prophet with the task of bringing the day of judgment. But David's downfall would start when he began to illegally collect and stockpile dozens of guns and thousands of rounds.
Man, God did not tell this freaking nutcase to do all this, man. Get the gun and ammo, man. Bro thought he had the freaking the goddamn Midas touch. No, bro got the touch of freaking insanity, man. Nutball.
Of ammunition, since he was preparing for the upcoming apocalypse. And on February 28th, 1993, federal agents would arrive at the cult's doorsteps with a search and arrest warrant in hand. But the Davidians cult members had no intentions of allowing them inside or arresting their leader. And within moments, gunshots began to go off. In the gunfire, 4 federal agents and 6 Davidians would end up losing their lives.
Dang,
but
they were having a
was
shootout.
just the beginning. The cult members would go on to barricade themselves inside of their compound for 51 days. But eventually, the FBI was given the green light to enter, firing multiple tear gas canisters inside. And shortly after, the entire building would erupt in flames. And to this day, no one really knows who started the fire, but after it was lit, the standoff would end within the hour, with 76 Davidians and their leader perishing in the fire or by smoke inhalation. And for the high-ranking cult members who managed to escape with their lives, they would end up inside of a cell. Number 3,
I'd rather be
Order
dead.
of the Solar Temple. This apocalyptic cult would make national headlines on October 4th, 1994, when 2 fires would break out in Switzerland, one at a farm and the other in a chalet. When the paramedics arrived at the scene, they would discover a total of 48 burned bodies across both locations. They had all been wearing white cloaks, but strangely enough, some of them also had a plastic bag over their heads. They were all laid out flat on the ground and in a circle. One of the sites was even surrounded by mirrors and the cult's symbols. On arrival, officers would also discover that the fires had been ignited with the remote control device. And since this was the early 1990s, they were clearly showing off. But these fires wouldn't be an isolated incident. In fact, this was just the beginning. 1 year later, on December 15th, 1995 in France, 16 burned bodies would be discovered, laying in the formation of a star. Then 2 years later, on March 22nd, 1997, 5 more members would be discovered in Canada. They were yet again set ablaze by a remote-controlled device. Now, here's the terrifying part. Remember those plastic bags? Well, apparently multiple cult members refused to drink the poison on the night of the sacrifice, where they were then held down against their will and had plastic bags placed over their heads. This was not a choice. Everyone had to participate. The reason why these cult members took part in these rituals was because they believed that the end of the world was near, and by leaving Earth, their souls would ascend to another planet, inevitably.
And little did they know they in the freaking ground rotting. And earthworms and maggots is eating their bodies. That's tough. All that for freaking nothing. That's crazy. They say, you gonna drink this? I don't want to drink it. I don't want to drink it. Yo, somebody hold him down and fill him up with this plastic bag.
Escaping the apocalypse. Number 2, movement for the restoration of the 10 commandments of God. Could they not have thought of a shorter?
And then too, that's a long night. The thing too, they be like these cult leaders. They be having these freaking cults. And try to hide it under the guise of freaking it's God told him to do it. No, bro, these niggas is weird, bro. Evil. Sick. Tell me some God told me. Freaking, we're gonna turn this to some higher beings. Alright.
Name. Now, this will probably be one of the most tragic endings to a cult that you will ever hear. But before I tell you how this all ends, let's first cover the cult's rise and beliefs. This was a religious movement that took place in Uganda from 1989 through the early 2000s. The group would claim to be a religious movement, garnering around 5,000 members at its peak. However, the rest of the world would categorize this group as a doomsday cult. The cult's beliefs were very simple. Members were strictly to follow the 10 commandments. They thought that by doing so, they would escape the coming apocalypse. They actually feared breaking the commandments so much that a lot of the members outright refused to speak and would instead communicate using sign language. Adapting the classic winning strategy of, you can't lose if you don't play. Which is a strategy that I have been using for years, making my friends absolutely jealous. Since they say stuff to me like, you literally don't even leave the house. You don't do anything anymore. And what happened to you? But don't worry, those are just words. It's so much better to know that you remain undefeated. The leaders of the cult would even claim to be able to directly talk to God and being told when the world would come to an end, placing the date on December 31st, 1999. As soon as this date was announced, the cult members erupted in a frenzy, selling their livestock and all of their belongings for very cheap. The leaders would then instruct their members to give all of the money to the movement, which they gladly did. But eventually, the date of doomsday arrived, and surprise, nothing happened, causing the leaders to push the date back to March 17th, 2000. With the followers enraged and beginning to ask for their money back, the leaders could not afford to be wrong this time around. So on March 17th, 2000, all 530 members were instructed to attend a party inside of a boarded up church. But just moments after the last person arrived, the party would quickly come to an end. With the only entrance to the church being shut, the building quickly erupted in flames. With no way out, all 530 members would be trapped inside and slowly burned alive. Police would later discover that 2 of the 5 cult leaders never attended the party. And just 4 days after the church fire, police would investigate all of the cult's properties, discovering an additional 395 bodies. The bodies of members that had been poisoned just days before the party, raising the total body count to over 900. The 2 cult leaders that are believed to have orchestrated these attacks managed to escape the country before being captured, and to this day, they remain free.
That's crazy. Nah, that's wow. All that took the money scam and ran with it. I ain't gonna lie, man. You stupid enough to believe it? Hey, man. Like, come on, bro. Even if I would have seen that in that time, it sound fishy. It sound weird. Let's all get into this one place, just out of the blue on the last day, the March of 2000. Sounds weird. Nah.
The People's Temple. This cult would become one of the most talked about
This one's
tragedies
crazy.
in all of American history.
Yeah, I've seen a documentary on
With
this.
countless of
This is crazy.
documentaries made on the subject and word of a new movie currently in the works, it really goes to show just how much of an impact this cult has had on society.
That man, Jim
It would
Jones
all
is something
begin
else.
in 1954
Holy
in
moly.
Indianapolis, Indiana, when a communist man named Jim Jones opened up his own church, attracting people by offering healing services, claiming to heal all sorts of diseases. In the coming years, Jones would garner thousands of loyal followers, secretly using religion to further his political ideology. After a while, Jones would begin to get criticized for his views, leading him to move to California in 1965. And by the early 1970s, he had established the temple's headquarters in San Francisco. Old members would be tasked with recruiting, leading to
this
massive
is crazy.
growth. And eventually, they would reach thousands of members.
Hey,
Yeah? What's up?
do you like Jesus?
What? Like our Lord and Savior Jesus?
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess. He's cool.
cool. Want to like him with us?
I'm okay, man. Thanks.
Why?
I'm okay, brother. Appreciate the offer, though.
Brother.
Why?
Just keep it moving, man.
Wow.
Why?
Brother, try someone else.
Why?
All right, man, you're ridiculous. Just give me the flyer.
Nothing.
Why?
Okay, I can't do this. But the next step would come in 1974 when Jones would acquire close to 4,000 acres of remote land in Guyana in South America, a place he would call
4,000?
Jonestown, slowly sending over members as they would begin to build homes and inhabiting the land. He convinced his followers to move by selling them the vision of paradise, a place where they can live freely without the government getting involved.
And got
For
poison the
Jones,
food.
creating a socialist society had always been his goal, and it was finally taking shape. By 1977, around 900 members lived on the compound, and this would also be the same year that Jones would permanently join them. But the moment he arrived, things quickly changed. Everyone was expected to work 8-hour days, followed by classes at night, where they would learn about socialism. Jones had effectively begun to brainwash his followers,
Bro, it went
even
crazy.
taking on the name Father. But everything would change on November 17th, 1978, when a politician named Leo Ryan and his team arrived at Jonestown to investigate claims of abuse. After the investigation was complete, Ryan would be ambushed at the airstrip, where he and 3 others would be fatally gunned down. Jones, knowing that the end was near,
crazy.
had a few helpers prepare a giant tub of grape-flavored drink,
Everybody
adding to it a
did.
concoction of drugs and cyanide. He would then instruct all of his followers to drink a cup.
Like it was men, women, children. I forgot what the documentary was. Fire documentary. But the joint itself was freaking crazy. Everybody was laid out, and at least the documentary said everybody was laid out, dead. Ghost town, literally.
Not knowing what was in it, his followers blindly followed his instructions. And with that cup, they had all but sealed their fate. More than 900 people, including Jones, would end up dying shortly after. This incident would
Crazy.
create the famous saying, "Don't drink the Kool-Aid," meaning to not blindly follow a leader or ideology without questioning or critical thinking, or you just might end up
Dead.
like the people at Jonestown.
Freaking gone. That's freaking wild though. Terrifying coast to ever exist. This is a freaking bang. I like this. I love this. But now, Good Enough. But yeah, this is the channel Good Enough. Definitely tap in with him. I freak with him a lot, man. Some heat. Really good videos, man. I love Good Enough. But if somebody come to your door, they try to get you to a cult, bro, and it sounds crazy, say no, bro, because you accept it. You listening to the teachings. Next thing you know, you're dead. You're drinking the Kool-Aid, and now you're laid up on the floor, gone, lifeless. Bugs is eating you up from the tip of your toes to the crown of your head. But hope you guys enjoyed it. Quay Max Quay, a.k.a. favorite cult leader.